So yeah, no, it's fine. I will watch up on it later. $10, let's go. Which I see www Discord. I'm in that www Discord icon. I know what icon it is. All right, chat. Let's go. Siege Turtle.
Hundreds of years ago, the nomadic Luxon Armada trained massive turtles to bear weapons of war across the Jade Sea. Now, you can raise your own turtle from an adorable hatchling to a cannon-carrying mount. Modern siege turtles are equipped with the latest Jade tech advancements, including powerful jump jets and health boosters.
This is going to put Raptor out of business, to be honest. Let's be honest. Even though if Raptor's supposed to be faster than this. Look at this, bro. You could cause an earthquake.
There's plenty of room for a friend. Take your favorite siege engineer out for a ride and make the most of the turtle's cannons.
Hi Tyria, welcome to Guild Chat, and thank you all for joining us on a Wednesday. I'm your host Ruby, and yeah, we're doing it kind of on a weird day because here in America, we have the Thanksgiving holiday tomorrow, so we're going to be on break tomorrow on Friday. But we still wanted to give you this show and give you some more information on what's coming up next week. The 4th open beta event for End of Dragons is next Tuesday, starting on November 30th. You're going to get to come in and play all 9 End of Dragons Elite Specializations, and you're going to get to try the Siege Turtle. So we're going to give you a little preview of some Siege Turtle gameplay today with our first dev guest. But stick around after we show you the Siege Turtle gameplay because Cal is with us too, and he's going to give you all a preview of some of...
This is the CMC himself.
That was so good.
Classic.
I feel like they're like literally timing
so
it
Cal's
every
going
time
to
he
give
takes
you
a
a
sip.
preview of the changes that we've made to the Elite Specializations for End of Dragons. After that, we have a couple more things that I'm going to leave for the end. So let's go ahead and get started because we have a lot to get through. Let's meet it was our first dev guest, but Cal and his water kind of got in front of you. So
No,
hi, Nick.
It's all good. So I'm not Cal. I'm Nick. Hi. I'm a game designer here at ArenaNet, working on End of Dragons, worked on Xingje and some other stuff. And I'm here to, as Ruby said, talk about the turtle baby.
All right.
Not the baby, but like, you know, our good boy.
Turtle
The
babies,
very
turtle
large
babies are
lad.
later.
Yes,
All right.
turtle babies are later.
So let's start. Let's take a look at this guy.
Yeah.
All right, so this is our Siege Turtle, our first 2-player mount. This focuses on cooperation and working together. There's a driver's seat and a gunner's seat. Everybody has their own roles to play. However, if you are more of a solo player, you can still use the turtle because there's a driver skill that we'll talk about later. A couple things about the Siege Turtle that you can look for once you've got your hands on this guy yourself. When you get closer to the turtle, whether you're in the other person's party or not, he gets kind of transparent and there is not collision. So you can't park your turtles on top of things and block them. We're not going to have turtle roadblocks and traffic jams.
Oh man, I knew it.
You also need to be in the person's party to board the turtle. So if I were not in Nick's party, don't kick me. If I were not in Nick's party, I would not have this board turtle option. And if I left the party, I would get booted off the turtle. So we've got a couple things in there just to make this as smooth as humanly possible. If you're not familiar with Siege Turtles from Guild Wars and Guild Wars 2, back in Guild Wars factions, this was a thing with the Luxon faction. They raised and trained Siege Turtles for battle with their big cannons. They had turtle hatcheries all over the world. Gala Hatchery was one of the most familiar ones. That was some gameplay in Guild Wars factions. And a little fun fact, Siege Turtles like to eat carrots and fish. That's their favorite food. Thank you for that, Indigo. All right, that said, let's get started. Let's do some turtle gameplay.
Yeah, so first off, I'm going to talk about movement, which as you can see, this is as fast as the turtle goes. Big boy, but slow, is what it would actually be the truth if I wasn't lying. No, this is just the walking animation, which we wanted to demonstrate because, you know, every
that was
mount has a
actually
walking
how it
animation. I think
moved.
that this one was actually really well done. Props to the animation team.
I don't think it's coded for
But
squad.
it does
No.
move faster than that. In reality, because this is the only mount, like the only creature mount that we're developing for this expansion, we tried to make sure that, we and the team tried to make sure that the movement of the mount felt like a strong utility and like you wanted to use this mount over other mounts depending on what your situations were. So it has a horizontal jump, but it's like a lower horizontal jump than the Raptor. It's got a high vertical jump compared to the Raptor and the Jackal, but it's lower than the Springer. It increases its speed and ramps up, which you're seeing me do somewhat right now, very similar to the Roller Beetle, but has a lower maxed out speed, of course. Which you actually, this bar right here, you'll be able to see is the momentum speedometer, which basically shows how fast your turtle is going and when you have hit its max speed, because it will be fully filled out. Along with that, as I mentioned, there is a vertical jump, and that is a new unique thing to the turtle. So as you can see, we have these little like jets here and all this text strapped onto the turtle.
Mastery point
And the reason for that is
455.
because the turtle actually has the ability to use these as sort of like rocket jets. And what those jets allow the turtle to do is basically jump. So like if you need to get to higher areas, or if you like, you know, need to glide for a little bit.
Oh, the jump
you
is
can
actually
utilize those
not
jets
that
to,
overpowered.
gain some height
Even
and
if
or
it's
stabilize
bigger,
and keep at your
it's
current
higher
height,
than the
as long as
Jackal and the
endurance
Raptor, but it's
bar
still not
is-
as
has
high as I thought.
endurance. Once it's out, that's basically the fuel meter, so you will run out and it will dissipate. Besides that, yeah, you know, he's just a big tanky boy. And that's pretty much everything for the movement right now. I think the next thing to talk about is actually going to be the combat skills. So as you can see here, we have a normal engage skill, and of course, as of a little while ago, we've added to the 5 slots all of the endurance skills for each of the mounts, and this mount is no different. This one will allow you, when you click on it or utilize it, to use its jump jets. But with this, where you have the ability
Turtle
to do is
skin
you
mounts are
slam
here for
onto
the fashion,
ground
yeah.
like that, and it will do a brief point-blank AoE in front of the player, like a little pizza cone. That will, there we go, yeah. That will do defiance damage as well as
Triple.
just a standard amount of damage. And what's cool about that as well is that you can actually utilize the jump jets to slam down, and the higher you are when you slam down, the more base damage you will do. So besides
Do you
that,
farm
we'll also be
XP
able
though
to
this
see
way? Can
is
you
that
actually just
we
go
actually
around?
have all of the
do
mastery
that?
skills from seasons 4 and 5 that you can utilize within the mounts kit as well. There are some additions to them that like there are some additions and integrations of them that you will be able to see that help make the turtle more effective for players. And
Easy
we'll go over
participation
that in a little
farm.
bit. But
Yeah,
for
that's
right
what I'm
now,
wondering. Like, do you get double XP as
that's
well?
pretty
like,
much everything
the person
for
in the party with
for
you,
the driver side of
because
things.
they can also hit the cannons.
Ruby, since you're the gunner on this, do you want to talk a little bit about the gunners?
Yeah,
side?
can you give me, I want to cause a little bit of trouble. Can you give me something to cause trouble with?
Yeah.
All right, let's get in a fight,
Ask
shall
and
we?
You shall receive.
All right. So we're waiting on some enemies now. Nick is
spell.
making trouble happen.
I'm trying to.
Well, the
He's
problem
breaking the
is
game.
like
There we
when
go.
someone's watching or when you're in a hurry, that's when the typos happen. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay, but oh, you did it.
Yeah, we got
All
some
right.
baddies.
So I got Turtle Siege, which is my turtle cannons. And
Damage
this
is
a
like
ground
not
targeted
that
skill.
big, but it's
You can
actually,
see
if you
down
combine
here
that with the
that right now I
jumps,
have
this
2
could
stacks
be
of
a
ammo. Stacks of
pretty
ammo. It's
overpowered
not
farm.
500 ammo. Don't get excited.
You know, I think
I
with the
have 2
speed though,
left.
I don't know if it
We
would
are-
really be as good as just going solo without
Sorry,
even the mount.
Yeah, I'm just
but
it's just running in circles and dropping cannon siege
Yeah.
on these guys. So this
damage is
is
actually adequate, to be honest. Damage is
it's
pretty
not
adequate.
okay. I can't
Because
do this
imagine you
anymore
just
because now
have
I'm
2 people.
distracted. I'm like, wait, we have to kill them.
turtles?
Oh, it's super
We
important.
do,
people
yeah,
in
and
the
like
party?
I'm also trying to keep
This
them alive
is
because something
going
that
to be,
people will probably
quite
notice right now
a problem
that you don't
in
notice with
some
other
maps.
mounts is that the slam that we're utilizing actually doesn't dismount you, which is something that's a bit different. We want we wanted this mount to be able to be utilized in combat. So what we did was we removed the disengage on the engage skill, which I know
Palauodon would be so much fun with this.
Also, yes, I
Yeah, maps with like a lot of enemies. Palauodon, Thunderhead Peaks, Silver Wastes, if you cause the map to like be fully taken over by Mordrim. I could really see like those maps literally being caused to fail just so like you could farm the mobs.
The mount, we gave it enough health where we could actually allow it to be tanky, as well as an
I wonder
actual
if they're
defiance
gonna
bar
take
in
that
and of
into
itself.
consideration. Like
So
there'd
that
be a
way
lot of
it can
AFK
stand
farming in there,
damage
and I could
itself.
definitely see people like
So I
paying
do
for the
wanna-
service
I want
of like,
to
let me
put to
just
my
be
ammo
on the
now that
mount
you've been running around
and
a
you
little
run
bit.
me around. I mean, that's
Ammo,
the
you
map
start
completion,
with
right?
5,
So
you run out. It's not just gone forever. Movement regens that. There are other skills that also regen. There are other ways to regen that we will talk about later. But the faster Nick moves, the more ammo that I get back. So if you're running around, you're kiting.
no problem, Mello.
Hey,
Good luck on your
Hammer
studies.
Master, all right. I just randomly.
I want to see what that number
randomly
3
getting
skill is. Like, it
achievements
has to
over
do
here.
something with the shell, right? So
But yeah, the faster Nick zooms around, the more ammo that we have. So you can work together. This is part of that cooperation that we were
Oh,
talking about
okay.
before. You can work together
I like that.
to keep that ammo going.
Like your
keep out of
driver
the
also has to
enemy's
be a
way.
pretty competent driver, so that you know you have more ammo to keep
Yeah.
shooting
And
with.
also,
So you
one
need a
note,
very good driver, and
the
then
numbers
whoever's
are
the
not
shooter also
final.
needs to be
Yeah,
pretty good
so
at
the numbers are
aiming.
not final here.
It's easy,
What you're going
actually.
to be seeing in the beta
Oh, look at the
is that
XP.
the numbers that you're going to be seeing within the beta and fighting against the Corteria and expansion enemies are going to be different than the ones that you're seeing right now from us. Our numbers probably look a little bit lower. It looks a little bit less damagey. That's because of balances that we're currently doing to the expansion armies and things like that. Besides that, let's
Actually,
see.
I want to note real quick too that I don't know if you guys could tell while Nick was running around, we're running through the enemies that I've killed, and I was just kind of looting as you go. You
I
can
think so,
loot from
Hoss.
the
Yeah, both
mount.
people get the farm.
You don't have to dismount to take care of that.
Yeah, that's both for the gunner and for the driver. Like as you can see
So
right now,
you don't even have
I'm
to
gonna be
dismount.
able
No one
to
has to
just
dismount.
take
Everybody gets their loot.
all the stuff. Yeah.
Get all the things.
Yeah.
Vacuum it up, Nick. Do you want to talk about the speedometer a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So going back to what Ruby was talking about earlier with the
I don't know, chat. I can see a lot of like problems. I mean, with it because there's a lot of ways you could kind of take advantage of them now. And
additional recharge you're getting.
the
So as you can see,
farms,
it's broken out between
the
green
service
and
of doing
red.
map
The way this works
completion.
out is that while it's in green, the
it'll promote a
recharge is
lot
at
of
certain
lazier
threshold. Once it hits
gameplay,
red,
in my opinion.
It will be even
A fun
faster,
gameplay,
and that
but
kind of
actually
maxes
much
out
lazier
what
than the game is right
base
now.
Regeneration edition is, or regeneration reduction. Kat, what's the appropriate terminology for that?
What?
The
Generation?
endurance regeneration?
Sure.
Yeah.
Lock it in.
Lock it in. Ship it. But the long and short of it is basically just that the faster you run, the more ammo that you'll get, or the faster the ammo will regenerate, and the speedometer is just there as a way to kind of visually show and indicate what that looks like.
So speaking of speed, do we want to go super zoomy?
We should definitely go super zoom.
All right, so I have this cool 5 skill here. This is my overdrive skill.
What does this overdrive skill do, Ruby?
So overdrive,
I'm curious.
this boosts accelerate, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It boosts your acceleration, max speed is more.
Yeah,
boosts your
you know,
turning
it's
ability.
actually, you know, people
And
talk
I'm
about like
gonna
what
let
would
the
be game
driver
changing.
show
We got
that
mounts and
because
Heart
the
of
faster you
Thorns.
go, also your drifting,
we got
you're
sorry, we got
drifting. This is
gliding and
kind
Heart
of
of
like roller
Thorns.
beetle.
Mounts and Path of
it's got that
Fire.
roller beetle drift.
Bro,
It's
a
big-
two-person
it's a
mount.
very
I don't.
big,
Has any other MMO
very
had
heavy
one like this?
creature, so we wanted to kind of help demonstrate that. So it
Specifically
does
like this, where you
slide
could
a
actually
little bit
farm
depending on
the
speed that
game.
you're going,
A two-person
and,
mount system.
The turn radius that you give it when you do decide
Yeah.
to turn.
And do it again.
Yeah. Also, something to note is that that does also help the siege ammo regeneration.
Yeah. I'm going to give Mark a quick note not to show my monitor because we need to keep our secrets, so we'll just stay on Nick while I do a thing.
Yeah, and
And we're underwater now.
we are underwater now. Actually, I don't know if anybody noticed that animation. Let me.
it was
I'm gonna
great.
be a dirty cheater. I'm doing dirty cheater
How
stuff.
dare you?
But what we'll actually see in a second is that the turtle actually also has a very unique landing animation and transition animation where it's like you will actually hit the water, everything slows down, and then you sink. And this is something that's really interesting about the turtle is that it doesn't swim, it just sinks to the bottom of the water. And what's also really interesting about it, and a bit novel actually, is that the turtle walks around on the ground surfaces of every single water area within the game. So like, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't swim, and going back to what we were talking about earlier, where it's more of a utility mount and it has a little bit of everything, similar to the upgraded skimmer, this is another mount that you can utilize underwater. And yeah, what I actually really like about it is that with mounts in the game, right, with gliding, those additions kind of reshape the way that you think about those specific areas in the traversals. What I found with the turtle as well, at least for myself, is that it kind of changes the way you look at all of the underwater areas. So like whether it's in Corteria or Path of Fire or even in Den of Dragons, just being able to walk around at the base level of a map kind of changes the game, at least for me. That's the way
I
see
do
it.
like
So I'm
the
excited
idea
to
that they
be
make
able
it
to see
sink
that
to the
and hopefully,
bottom. It would,
you know,
because then it would literally take away the
experience it
purpose
and
of a
maybe hopefully
skimmer.
the same
So I do like the
thoughts.
Yeah.
creativity in just making this
I do love
purely
that
just
turtle can
sink.
walk around underwater. I love the animations, but I also love that it. Okay, hello, my screen is full of turtle. Suddenly, it's just turtles everywhere. I also want to talk a little bit about the combat underneath water because you can still do that. I need you to take me a little bit closer to that hermit crab that I have targeted over there, please.
You got it.
Please. Oh wait, no. Okay, well,
Oh, there's another one right there.
yes, we can get that one.
Actually, I think we can
Bro.
heard it.
My gosh. Yeah. So underwater
Destroyed
is
the
not
crab,
ground
bro.
targeted. It is enemy targeted. I don't want to kill that koi. That's just kind of like stomping a fly. Can you give me? I need another hermit crab. There was just one.
I'm looking. I'm trying.
We're trying to find enemies so hard, you all.
That one.
While you're trying to find me an enemy, I also want to note that you're going to be able to mount and dismount the siege turtle while you're underwater. That's not just, oh, you have to be on dry land or it doesn't work.
Yeah, not
You know
just
what?
that, but like
That
also the
koi.
gunner can hop into and out of the another person's siege turtle as well. So it's like it's not just that the main person can mount and dismount, but also the gunner can hop in and out.
I'm doing like mass damage to these creatures because they're the only ones I can find.
Yeah, poor I'm sorry, Koi.
I'm sorry,
Got
Koi.
it
I'm
for
so
the stream.
sorry. It's fine. He'll respawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something else to note, I think, is that, like as you mentioned, there's a difference between the ground version, which has actual ground targeting, very similar to our other skills, versus the click target. And the reason for that is just that we wanted to make sure that it's a bit more like accessible and like the ease of access, ease of use for everybody while they're using these things.
Airborne
within
lasers.
within the
Yeah.
water, because it is a
Absolutely.
bit harder to use ground targeting.
It's basically like an enemy drone
It
strike,
really
you
is.
know.
I also want to note that you're getting XP for my hard
Enemy
work.
drone strike
Siege
incoming.
cannoning koi.
Yeah, that is
And
definitely
it just
something else
shoots.
to note is that.
Or, like, imagine,
I
like,
think
you
because
see
we're in the
this
same-
massive
we're in the same
turtle,
party, anything that
and you're
you
like, oh,
do,
I'm
I will
safe.
get
You know, it's
credit
not gonna
for
hit
to
me.
a certain extent,
And then
and vice versa.
just a laser out of nowhere just pops up right
Yeah, I
from
think
above
that
the
actually
water.
will
And
also
just
be beneficial to get out of this water.
Dead.
Which,
Please, please.
yeah,
Next thing you know,
best
you're
way
looking
for
at your
us to
body
be
as
able
it's
to do
being
that is by
served
utilizing
up
the jump jets. That's
in the
how
fish
the
market.
turtle moves up and down. And actually, before I
You
go
feel
out
bad
of
for
the
the fish
water,
here.
what I will note is that I don't know if enough people will notice it, but within the water, while you're swimming around, while you're using the jump jets, they will actually move faster. So you will gain more elevation faster while you're using the turtle in the water.
This person in my skiff.
Yeah, they're
please.
like, my skiff. So your skiff's okay. It's very durable.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah. But so that's pretty much it for underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think like they will.
let's see, what
Yeah,
else
I mean
have we
they
got? I
have
think
to have
we've
underwater
covered most
content.
of
If
it.
they built a
You
turtle
all are gonna
mount
get to
that
try
also
this.
has
Yeah.
underwater
You all are gonna
underwater
get to try this
capabilities.
next week in the End of Dragons beta event starting on Tuesday the 30th. You're going to start with Siege Turtle Mastery 1. We are going to give you a little sneak peek at the Siege Turtle Masteries just so you can see the whole line and see what's going to be happening in End of Dragons once it's live. Once again, Mark, I'm keeping our secrets, so please don't show my screen. All right, let's go ahead and go through them, starting with the Siege Turtle Level 1. The first one is Turtle Health Boost, and that will increase your turtle's health.
Yeah.
Second one is Slam Mastery. This is what Nick was talking about earlier. Your turtle's slam will now also generate 25% of an artillery shot. And this is the thing that we were talking about earlier, where you regen your artillery
Oh,
in
I don't
the
know
gunner
about
seat
this.
by running
Oh,
around.
I mean,
The
it's a
faster
good
you
one,
run,
but-
the more it regens, but also
Oh,
when you
no.
use that Slam Mastery skill, you get
This
a
will
little bit of an
cause some
artillery shot
maps
back
to be
too.
literally
So that
just
helps you
filled with
generate it
people
faster.
farming turtles.
Improved
Farming
jump
enemy
jets,
mobs.
which would have been awesome when you were getting out of the water, but
would've
it
been,
still does its thing. Your turtle can now jump farther and higher using his jump jets. Power Shell is a protective skill. This allows you to convert incoming damage into ammo from the passenger seat. and you have a little protective shell beyond your actual turtle shell. And finally, sharing is caring. This gives your turtle's health boost to all of your other mounts too. So this one is useful for all of your mounts. All right.
Agreed. Yeah. Sorry. One
I'm
second.
gonna hide that.
Yeah.
We have to like take little pauses and make sure that we're not showing anything off. Like we've talked about before, the game is a work in progress. We want to leave tons for you to discover. So we're trying not to give away all of our secrets.
Yeah. Just wanted to make sure that we could actually like also visually demonstrate some of those differences. So like if you were to look at my client as an example, what
Nick
you'll
is
see
goodness.
what you'll see now is that like the turtle hovers a little bit higher now that I've done that. Let's see. I think it also mentions in the tooltip. Yeah. So now you'll see that also within the tooltip, ammo per hit is increased, and also the health has also been.
One person
increased as
party,
well.
one person's not gonna have a buddy
So just
rip.
things like that, you know,
The
wanted
odd
to
one
kind
out.
of give a little bit of visuals to that. I think
Yeah,
also
it's
as
like,
well,
oh, hey, buddy,
if
sorry we
really
don't have
wants to
any
show
more
off the shield
space.
skill.
Yeah.
Try the
Let me go
loan.
back. Wait.
Yeah, I'm right behind you. There we go.
All right. So that shield skill is my 3 skill.
And then,
I
this
think
puts
yeah,
a
with
giant
probably
bubble
Brian.
around us.
Do I think we'll have to
Or
farm it like
we
the
will
sky
die
skill? I think it'll be
much
like a
less
collection
quick.
like the sky
Something
skill.
else to actually note. I don't know if I mentioned
Don't
this
know how
earlier, but just in
grindy it will
case.
be, but
We're
I
talking about
definitely
ammo
think we're
generation,
looking at
and we're
something
talking
like
about
the
the
sky
season
skill.
4 and 5 skills.
Although
the bond of life.
I wonder if they learned
once
from
again,
like having
heals
it
and
become something
increases
like
the
time gated that
boss-
you could
the
original
turtle's
sky skill you couldn't
health,
get for
and
like
that also
at least a
increases
week,
dependent on
week and a
whether you have
half,
the mastery or not,
and then they
as
made
well
it
as the bond
so
of
that you can
vigor
actually
not
just
only
get it in like
increases your
about 2 to 3
endurance for your
days.
jet fuel,
Just
but it
depends
also
how they go.
increases the rate of ammo reacquisition. So when you use that plus the boost plus max speed, you're just going to be constantly firing them out. It's really
Yeah, so what
exciting.
he
And
just
of course,
explained
we've
was
got,
that like what I was
standard mount
talking over
stealth
is if
and
you had
the
all
bond
those
of vigor.
masteries they just listed,
So those are just the kind of things I
right?
also wanna
Imagine you have all the
mention
mobs,
that,
you're firing
you know,
your
the team
ammo,
wanted to
you're
make sure that
boosting,
we
the
could
driver knows how to
better
maneuver
integrate
around
and
to
give
generate
additional
more
value
ammo.
to both
And
those
because you
who
have the
get
mastery
turtle and
lines
go back
and the
into those
enemies are
old
hitting you
expansions
constantly and you have that
content
shield
and get
bubble,
that, as
it
well
just
as additional
it's
value
like
for those who
infinite
already have
ammo.
those
Like you're
things and
literally
get
gonna be a
turtle.
walking
So definitely wanna
artillery
make sure that we
fire.
could take some time to integrate those things and make them worth it.
I like
Do you want
the
to talk about-
versatility of this
just roll a
mount.
bit.
Yeah,
The problem
sure.
is I think it's gonna kill a lot of
That's
things
something
in the
that's
game.
on everybody's mind, right?
It's
called
going
the
to cause a
siege
lot
turtle.
of bots to
So
farm,
I know a lot of
and it's
people out
going
there that play World
to
are probably thinking like siege turtle.
yeah. I
Like,
mean, it's
does
gonna
turtle
promote
do
a bit of
siege damage
laziness
in
from
World
players.
Worlds?
I love the
And,
mount, but I feel
unfortunate
like there
answer right
might
now
be
is no.
a bit of
What
too
we
much of an
decided,
imbalance with this one.
for the expansion is that we will not be shipping the turtle within World v World and will not be allowing it to be usable in World v World. And the reason for that is mostly just that with the expansion coming out and with all these additions of things like the elite specs as well as the alliances or world restructuring and things like that, we wanted to make sure that we didn't introduce too many variables of disruption for the expansion and when everything drops to help make sure that people like Cal aren't like just forced to change a lot of stuff at the exact same time. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's off the table. What the team decided on is that like if we do add it, it's going to be because people like yourselves and all the players have decided that they really, really want it, right? Mm-hmm. So through kind of community desire and with community influence, we will make the decision on whether we should or should not add it. But something to also note there, I think actually our current design director said it best, we're only going to do it if it makes World v World better. So something to note is that if we were to add it to World v World at a later time, we would make sure that it doesn't break the game mode and that it fits. Mm-hmm. So it would be different, right? It would be a highly modified version of the Siege Turtle, very similar to what you see with the Warclaw in PvE versus World v World. But yeah, I think that's everything for World v World. Yeah. Something else I think that is worth mentioning is that I think some people might have actually noticed this with the current the T-set chairs, because I think it's similar functionality there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they found the bug, chat
you
one.
actually, while you have a passenger, you have the ability to teleport around with them. So as an example, I'm gonna cheat real quick, and I think
we can show one of our screens.
yeah.
I'm good. I'm safe.
Yeah.
So Nick is teleporting.
Or trying to, anyways. Aha! That's
The
why.
typos are happening again.
I'm not used to this keyboard, but yeah. So as you can see, I just teleported to back over to the starting area that we were at earlier, and Ruby was pulled with me. So that means that you're not just taking your friends like on a run, right? Like you can take them to different parts of the map as well, utilizing teleports and waypoints. I think something else that is worth mentioning, because I'm sure that a lot of people are also curious about this, is that for the acquisition method, we can't really talk about what it is or like how it's built out, but what we can say is that it is going to be faster for players in acquisition than the Skyscale was, as an example. So for those people who are like, is it going to be comparable to Skyscale in duration and investment? The answer is it's going to be a lot simpler to get, a lot faster. And I think that's pretty much everything.
I dismounted while you were talking and hopped out over here just to show off that my turtle looks a little bit different from yours.
It does look a little bit different from mine.
So just like with the other mounts, even on the base mount, you can dye yours to kind of make it your own. We have a few dye colors available in the game. So I just went with a harvest gold. I went with like the most offensive pink I could find the first time. It was a lot. But yeah, I went with
So the
something a little
shell
more
obviously
subdued
can be
this time,
dyed.
and Nick is changing his now.
Assume
Yeah,
the
I like that one.
outline
I like
of the
cycling through,
cannon
that's
and the
brick. If
gold
you're talking about
area.
the one that I'm using right now, that's brick.
Yeah, that looks good.
And then also something to mention is that very similar to the other base level mounts, each of them has only a singular dye channel on launch, and that's going to be the same with the turtle. So you will have one dye channel for when the turtle is released, and it dyes the shell specifically. Just for those who are curious about what parts it's dyeing particularly, it's just a shell for right now. And
Oh, okay.
if I'm not mistaken, that's literally all of it.
I do want to call out one more thing.
Go for it.
This is just like a fun little animation thing, because we've talked before about how much work and the care and the details that everybody puts into these mounts. And if you look at my turtle, I'm just going to move away from you, Nick. As he is, no, you're fine. As he spins around, as I'm moving around, the cannons are following me. My siege cannons are following the way to point in the
That's a pretty
direction that
cool
they're gonna go.
attention to detail. I do
Yeah,
like that.
it's a fun touch, but it's also a helpful visual indicator, like which way is this going? How weird is this going to be depending on what I do with ground targeting? So yeah, kudos to everybody who worked on this, because like we said, it's still a work in progress. We're still improving things and putting those final touches on, but it already looks fantastic.
Yeah, and shout out to people like Ben Kirsch, who is the main designer for this, and everybody on the animation team worked on it, programmers as well, trying to make sure that it felt solid. This is a staple piece and kind of like one of the key features that we're shipping for this expansion. It's like one of the back of the box features. So the team really wanted to take some time to make sure that it felt good, that it felt, what's the word I'm looking for, like worth the investment, worth the time, and things like that. So we just hope that y'all feel the same way.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much for that time, Nick.
Of course.
So I promised you all some more things. We're going to take a very short break, and then we will come back, and Cal's got some updates about the elite specializations for End of Dragons. So stick around. We'll be back in just a minute.
Okay. I like the idea.
Should I run away?
It's honestly, it's well done. Like if you ask me, like this,
You know what? I'm gonna stick around.
I haven't seen this in any other MMO. It's game changing to say the least. There's your game changing feature. For those that are asking, like, what can they even add after mounts and gliding? My issues with it are it will promote a lot of laziness, and I feel like it takes away from the fact that it doesn't force you to now go ahead and explore the world or anything. It's kind of, you could literally just get taxis, bro. Like turtle taxi servicing is going to start happening, right? You're gonna see like taxi companies. Maybe Overflow will have a taxi company. I think it does stick around mostly for casuals. It is very casual as a mount. It's very well done. I will say it's very well implemented, but I think it actually causes some harm.
Thanks again for hanging out with us here on Guild Chat today. So, like we've been talking about, beta's next Tuesday. How have the elite specs changed? Cal is here to tell us that. So, take it away, Cal.
Great, thanks.
Hey, CMC.
Yeah, so beta 4, we
Cheers.
actually got a lot of feedback throughout the first 3 betas and all the elite specializations. So a lot of things have changed. And for today, we're just going to do like, at least for the stream, we're going to do a very high level, kind of more organized overview of a handful of the key feedback items that were actioned, but right after the stream we'll also be posting the full list of update notes on the forums, so look forward to that. We didn't want to go over every single specific thing here on the stream because we'd be here for, a very, very long time, given, you guys all know my history of talking about elite specs, so we wanted to keep it really nice and contained, talk about the main important things, and leave the rest for all of you to see on the forums.
I'm literally over here setting that up right now.
Awesome. All right, so let's just hop into it. We'll run through these in the same order that we initially revealed them. So we're kicking things off with the Virtuoso. And so the first thing we see here, kind of one of the big feedback points is, well, what about blade generation, clone generation? And we increased the clone cap to 5 for this character, obviously new blade songs, really, and then of course being able to maintain blades across combat. It really felt like we wanted to give a little bit more blade generation. This is something we saw a lot of feedback around as well. I end the fight with a shatter, and then I have nothing left. And it feels a little bit weird to have this functionality that doesn't really do anything, because by the time I get in my next fight, I don't have any more clones. And so one of the things that we've added here is that a piece of one of the minor traits for the Virtuoso is now just going to generate a clone every 10 seconds. Whether you're in combat, whether you're not in combat, you'll just be constantly generating clones or blades. Confused myself already, but get some more natural blade generation there, so you'll pretty much always have something ready to go at the start of a fight. In addition to that, we fixed up some interactions with stuff like mirror images, decoy, these skills that for base Mesmer, for other Mesmer specializations, you need a target because you're spawning a clone to go attack something. The Virtuoso will no longer need a target to activate those skills, so you can still just stock blades while you're out of combat, moving around, getting ready for the next fight. So with additional blade generation, that's going to play into it's going to enable shatters a bit more. So this character becomes a lot more shatter focused. And one thing we've added there to kind of play into that identity is the minor master tier trait is now going to give you a damage bonus every time you shatter. This is going to be a duration based thing. So it's I think it's 5% for both power and condition every time you shatter for some duration. So it's going to create this really nice flow of combat where you're going to be, building up blades, shattering, get the damage bonus, press some more buttons, get more blades, shatter again, keep that damage bonus going.
I have a very good burst actually, and this is the DP.
So
is
importantly,
a very
that
good
does
DPS
increase condition
class.
damage, because another feedback point that we saw a lot about is condition builds, and they're just not as exciting as say the power builds are, and so we've added the damage bonus there, tuned up some of the numbers on some of the
How
bleeding
about compared to
and some of the other condition
Chronomancer
applications for this
though?
character, just to make sure that condition build feels a little bit more relevant than it did during the first beta. So next up, we're going to talk about Harbinger. We've got some pretty exciting stuff going on here. So first things first, first bullet point here is the life force drain. This is the thing that Harbinger did when you were in combat and you were not at full health. It would constantly drain your life force to heal you, convert that into healing. And this was kind of an interesting design decision originally, that we wanted to create kind of this, a little bit more sustain, but also create kind of this push-pull between building up life force and managing your life force and your defensive play, that you would be able to have enough life force to get a
So
good
every
shroud.
elite spec should
But
have
we
both
saw a lot of feedback around
power and
just,
condy. I
playing
don't think
with it
anyone
more and
said
more.
that.
It
But
didn't feel particularly good. It wasn't.
I'm not a fan
particularly
of a spec being able
fun
to play both
with, just fighting
spectrums. It
against your
should,
own
it's a
life force generation.
specialization.
So we
Should
just
only
kind of pulled out
specialize in
entirely.
one.
So it's also
I don't
going
know
to
if
be
anyone said that.
a bit less sustain for the character, which is probably reasonable as well. But it's
This
just going to make sure
class
that you
I
always
hate.
have
This one
that
they
life
need to
force
like
available for a shroud when you want it.
really go back and maybe even touch up even more.
Another thing we've looked
Harbinger
at
should
is
not be
updating
a
the blight
class that
mechanic a
is
little bit.
able
So
to not
first
only
thing
give
off,
you
it's
every
gonna be a little
boon in
bit
the
less
game,
punishing. It's down to
but
like
then also be a
1.5%
DPS
max
version
health per stack
that
instead
can
of 2%.
actually,
But we've also added some more
deal
interactions.
a decent enough of
calling
damage. Like
blight threshold, which you're going to see on some of the shroud skills and then on all of the elixir skills. And what blight threshold says is, if you use this skill with a certain amount of blight on you, there's going to be a bonus effect, and it's going to consume some blight from you. So it's going to create this really interesting management of generating enough blight through elixirs and shroud to then get these payoffs from also elixirs and shrouds. It's going to really create some particular decision-making points in how you want to use those abilities. And so that's one update to the elixirs. We also wanted to do some further updates because the elixir skills in beta 1, not the most interesting, press a button, get some boons. Obviously you did have the boon share trait, but still pretty simplistic gameplay. So now all of the elixirs are going to be ground targeted, and you can throw the elixir. The area effect is going to be some damage, it's going to be some condition application. You're still going to get the boon on yourself regardless of where you throw the elixir. And it's also going to allow the boon sharing to be in that ground target area. So a little bit more flexibility in when you go into that boon share build, the positioning that you'll need to have to enable that playstyle. So next up, we're going to move into the Willbender. Most importantly, so this first bullet point, looking at some animation cleanup. This is something we've actually done across a lot of specializations, looking at like things like aftercast and movement locks and stuff like that. That just makes things feel a little bit more clunky. It's a really important thing to call out for Willbender specifically because it is, this character that is supposed to be fluid in movement and really, that high mobility assassin-y character. So we want to make sure that these things feel pretty good. So importantly, we're going to see something like Justice is going to come out a lot faster. The uppercut's going to be a lot faster. The aftercast is going to be a lot less impactful there.
I do feel like
and
this,
also stuff
like
Whirling Light,
Willbender
flash combo, these skills that previously
is
would
probably on the lowest
animation, they're gonna
spectrum
allow you to
of like
move
all these
freely
classes
instead.
because
She'll have a lot more control over
I don't know.
where you're positioning your character in the fights.
It does a bit of things for like your
Another
friends
thing
and
we're going to have
everything,
is
but
some
it's just
similar to
it
Virtuoso,
feels
some
like it
improvements
needs
to
more.
condition builds. Willbender was obviously pretty intentionally designed to be a power character, sword offhand, and a lot of mobility and combat traits like that. But it is still an extension of the Guardian, so we have not just natural burning application. There's a lot of traits that care about burning, so it felt like there needed to be a condition build. This is something that we saw a lot of feedback around as well. So we had a couple more tools for that build to exist. There's a new trait that's going to cause Willbender Flames to apply burning on hit, and also the damage bonus from Lethal Tempo is going to give both strike and condition damage bonus. Just a few more tools for that Condi build to work.
Just rework Willbender
And
tool
finally,
now, give them the
we're going to have
tools.
actually access to AoE Alacrity for this character. So Phoenix Protocol, the Grandmaster trait, obviously gave Alacrity to the Guardian themselves, the Willbender themselves. That is now shareable through Battle Presence, which is the Virtues trait that says
I
Virtue
might like
or
this
Virtue
improvement
Resolve now
because
affects
this
their
class
area
seemed
around
like
you.
it had
It really only
really
makes
nothing
sense
but a
that
solo
would allow you
function,
to
and
get
I think
AoE
now
Alacrity
this
through Phoenix Protocol.
kind of
Now
puts
it
it
does-
at least in
we'll see
somewhat
if
of a
any,
use.
like super Alacrity builds show up. I'm not sure if it's actually going to be a absolute Alacrity source that we see, something like Spectre or the other Alacrity sources in the game. But the option is there for all of you guys to try it out in Beta 4.
But by the sounds, it doesn't
Next
sound
up, we're
like
gonna
it's
talk
going to be a
about the
class that can even
Vindicator.
compete with the other ones for
So
alacrity.
we have some updates to the dodges and then alliance stance. So we'll talk about the dodges first. Big feedback point is, again, just clunkiness of movement. And when you come crashing down in any of the dodge animations, I guess they all have the same animation, come crashing down with any of the dodge skill, you just, you were stuck in place for a little bit amount of time. And that just created a lot of not the best gameplay gameplay experience. And it was there to really sell the impact, but we do really care about how this character actually plays in the world, so it's going to just have a lot less end lag there. You'll be able to move much more quickly out of the dodge. Another minor update, I guess not a minor update, but another update to the dodges that we've kind of rebalanced all of them around 100 endurance. So previously we had 3 different dodges that had 3 different costs, 150, 100, or 50. They're all now going to cost 100 endurance, and we've rebalanced the effects to kind of as needed to be pretty on rate outside of any buffs or nerfs that we wanted to do. And the important note here is that it just makes it a lot more convenient, I guess. Well, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. So there we go. Great live show here. But it's just a lot easier to balance endurance generation and making sure it feels good for all of the dodges, because something that gives 50 endurance previously was a lot better for the 50 endurance dodge than it was for the 150 endurance dodge, because you just get the full dodge. But now it's going to be a lot more consistent across all dodges, so that should help make sure that all 3 of these things are potentially viable. And then next up, we'll hop into Alliance Stance and talk about, we'll just run through this real quick. Most importantly, the skills will not automatically flip anymore, and there's people will probably be pretty excited by that. You can now much better define the playstyle that you want. If you want to just focus on the Kurzik side or focus on the Luxon side, you can. We've added the ability to flip that manually through a new F3 skill. We split out the skill flip mechanic from Energy Meld and just put it on its own separate skill with a 10-second cooldown.
I like that.
So you can now manually control
That's a good one.
when you flip between.
It felt like
Luxon
annoying you had to keep
if
swapping.
you feel the need to.
So yeah, no, I
So
like
pretty
this
big
option of just
usability
having the
update
one that
for
you want.
For the, what is this character called? Vindicator.
So you don't have to flip between the Luxon skills
there
or
are
the
vin-
Kurzik.
there are
Yeah,
a
I
lot
like
of,
this one.
words
But
to
again,
remember
actually,
here.
to me, in my opinion,
Next
was a
up, we
pretty okay
have
one.
the
I
Blade
don't
Swarm.
think I had too many issues with it.
So
This one is a one-trick
there's
pony.
one thing I forgot to mention at the start here is that there's a lot more changes to these than are just shown on these bullet points here. These are just kind of general categories that feel natural to talk about in this kind of super speedrun version. So the big point here is talking about Dragon Trigger. There are other changes that you'll see in the patch notes once we get there, but some updates to Dragon Trigger and Dragon Slash. So one of the main feedback points around this mechanic is that it is just overly slow. I mean, it's a 5-second channel for the maximum value Dragon Slash, and it's not super realistic and competitive. Even in like PvE modes, it's a lot more difficult to use effectively. And we agree that, again, that's something that makes the character just feel a lot more clunky. So the flow cost per charge is going to be down to 5 instead of 10, so it's only going to cost you half of your bar to get a full charge Dragon Slash, and it's also going to charge twice as fast. So instead of half a second per charge, it's now quarter of a second. So it'll be 2.5 seconds for a full charge versus 5. Just some opportunities to make that a lot more accessible, a lot more usable in regular gameplay situations. We got a couple of minor trait interaction updates as well. The Immortal Dragon trait, the heal one, is also going to give you protection based off the number of charges, and Unyielding Dragon will give you some number of might stacks based off how many charges. The last Grandmaster trait is, of course,
Are they
Daring Dragon, I
changing the
believe,
damage
which is now going to be
for the
even
build-up?
more exciting with the reduced energy cost. Now it's maxing at 5 charges, which is 25 adrenaline, 25 flow, which means you can fire off 4 or 5 or maybe even 6, depending on what other external adrenaline sources you have, back to back to back with that Daring Dragon trait.
Is she going to be this like
Next
this
up, we have the Catalyst. So
dead
saw
boss
some
dead?
of these
Literally,
on
that's
Hackball
it.
stream
It's
a
just
little
like
bit. The Jade Sphere. We kind of joked for these bullet points, we should just put Jade Sphere, Jade Sphere, Jade Sphere, Jade Sphere, because that is very much the most, problematic. It definitely was problematic in its implementation, how the Jade Sphere was just incredibly clunky to use in terms of gameplay. The 15-second duration in a single point, it was not super realistic to any real gameplay situations. And then also the transitioning field as you switch attunements made it very difficult to get the combos you want, get the matches you want on your augments, get the boons that you want. Everyone just wants quickness. And so we went back and we tweaked this Jade Sphere mechanic such that it is now 4 separate skills, 1 per attunement. It is going to be an upfront 10 energy cost to deploy that field for 5 seconds, and that field will not change elements. So if I'm in Earth, I deploy the Earth prot field, poison field. That will always be that pulsing prot poison field, even if I switch attunements into fire. This also means that you can fire off like up to 3 in a row. If you have 30, drop Earth, switch to fire, drop fire, and so on and so forth. So you can get some potentially more exciting stuff, or you could just pop into air and use fresh air to always have access to quickness over and over and over. So that should help with the flow of the character a lot, and also help with the augments. But even though, another thing with the augments that I want to say is that the matching mechanic we thought was cool. We saw some feedback, the matching mechanic is cool, but these skills are just too weak. And you need the bonus effect to feel as though this isn't the same power level as like a more natural utility skill. And that's definitely pretty accurate. So for most of the augments, not the elite, we'll talk about that one a little bit later, or we'll just leave it for the patch notes, because that one's actually pretty crazy. We made a pretty significant mechanical change to the elite skill that you guys can take a look at later. But all of the other augments will have the previous bonus effect rolled in baseline, and then you have a new bonus effect that is either going to be cooldown reduction or duration bonus, depending on which augment. So like the fire damage bonus is going to last longer if you use it in the fire field. The earth shield block will have a reduced cooldown if you use it in the earth field. So those just increase the power level of the augments. Also plays into a little bit of those defensive improvements that we had on that list. More defense from the earth block, better stun break on the air stun break, a little bit more healing access from water 4, and earth 4 is now also going to give some barrier in addition to the aura that it does when you successfully block an attack. We're still going to be keeping a close eye on like Catalyst defense, making sure it feels tanky enough without blowing out too hard. So we made a few adjustments for Beta 4, and we'll see how those play out. I'm going to flip my note sheet over to the next page real quick, and we're going to talk about Spectre. So Spectre, we actually saw a lot of really positive feedback around the Spectre. So some of these bullet points here are a lot more targeted on very specific things. The first one being consume shadows, and this is the trait that says when you exit Shroud, consume all of your shadow force to heal in an area. And this was really one of the primary ways that Spectre could create more of that area of effect support, as opposed to the more single target of the Shroud Tether or the Scepter skills, the Spectre Scepter skills. But the gameplay around Consume Shadows is another case where the gameplay was just not very compelling. The optimal way to play is just pop in, immediately exit, because that's going to give you the maximum value, maximum heal. So we've tuned the mechanic a little bit where being in Shroud is actually now going to give you stacks of a buff that says Consume Shadows is more effective. So the longer you stay in, the more you'll be building up to that maximum effectiveness, and over time, you will hit that maximum effectiveness.
Oh, that's actually good.
At which point you will exit.
It felt
and
weird,
slow
like
your-
the actual one of the
remaining
mechanics
Shadow
that
Force to
this
get
class
that heal
plays
value.
didn't reward you for being
So it's just
in
going to make you
said
want to use.
situation
we want you to go
stance.
into Shroud and use those Shroud skills.
long
We don't
enough.
want
This is a
players
good
to
improvement.
feel that the optimal way to play is just ignore one of the major mechanics of Refression. So this should really allow you to dig in and play with all of those abilities in addition to getting value from Consume Shadows. The next thing on the list was an adjustment to Endless Night. So this is the beam portion of Scepter Pistol dual skill. It was just giving a bit too much quickness access. Our primary goal for Spectre was to be more of that alacrity source, and Endless Night just allowed you to be alacrity source and a solid quickness source and, a pretty decent healer, which is just a bit overtuned for what we're looking for in a support character. So by reducing the target cap down to 1, it's still going to have access to some quickness, but it's hopefully not going to be a primary quickness source while doing everything else, and just give it a little bit more of a well-defined role within our group content. So up next we have the Untamed. So big one at the top, pet control keybinds. Obviously we touted this character as like, hey, here's more direct pet control over your pet's abilities, but we overwrote attack my target and return to me, so you can't actually control your pet the way you want. Those have been added back here. We've adjusted the UI for the Untamed, and also the Mechanist will see that same bullet point, where attack my target and return to me are back. You can bind them to whatever you want, and that will just give you the full suite of pet controls that we were really looking for this character. On top of that, we got a very big feedback point about the Untamed is the interaction with the Unleash mechanic. And these were already coming up during the Beta 3 live stream preview. I was sitting here and Ruby was reading chat and we were asking, hey, what about Unleash interactions for other weapons? And it's like, well, we talked about this ambush style thing. Didn't really go forward within the beta for Beta 3, but we continuously got more and more feedback around, the Unleash mechanic just feels a little bit incomplete. And so we have gone back and we've polished up those ambush skills, and they will be in for Beta 4, where not every time, but there's going to be a timer. We'll talk a little bit about this on the next bullet point, but every so often when you enter the Unleashed state, you will flip over your auto attack into this Unleashed ambush skill, and it's going to have a different ability per weapon. Some of them are, I think they're all pretty cool, but some of them are maybe more exciting than others, as we've seen. It's the same thing with Mesmer Ambush or any burst skill. But I think, again, they're all pretty cool. So that just adds another layer of interaction with the Unleash mechanic. Cantrips are also going to see a bonus depending on your state. It will give you it's kind of a variable buff. So for example, the heal is going to give you super speed if you're in Unleashed state, and if you're not Unleashed, it's going to give you a stack stability. And so that bonus is different per cantrip. Just a little bit more flavor to play into this Unleash mechanic. Another big bullet point there was the stance swap cooldown. So this created a lot of situations where you could get kind of stuck in a bad state, or you never wanted to switch stances because you would be kind of in the wrong mode for too long. That 10-second cooldown didn't feel super great, especially when you're trying to set up the combos that you want. You want the CC and defense, switch into Unleash, get the offensive combo off of that, but it just didn't play really well when you were already in offense. You had to wait, a very long time. So we reduced that cooldown down to 1 second, and that's why the Unleashed ambush skill is going to be controlled by a timer as opposed to every time you unleash. But that's just going to give you a lot more control over when you have access to the Unleashed pet skills, when you have access to the other side of the hammer, and not be too punished to make that decision and look to find the different lines for gameplay here. Quick final note here: the player material effect that you see when the player is in that Unleashed state got a lot of feedback around the conflict it has with Fashion Wars, especially as a permanent buff. It's a little bit different than like a Necro Shroud or Hollowsmith Forge, which are all temporary things. Just always having this effect on you disrupts character looks a bit more, so it's going to fade out after a period of time after you enter Unleashed state. And you'll still have all the bonuses of being Unleashed, but that material effect will fade out after a little bit of time. So we have last but not least, we have the Mechanist. And a couple, obviously, pet control keybinds, same stuff, attack my target, return to me. Those are now available with the Mechanist. And then we have the big big category here is the updates to the Jade mech. And like I said before, there's changes that do not fall into the same bucket that you'll see in the patch notes, but this is kind of the main thing to talk about for this preview live stream here is the Jade mech. And first thing we'll throw out there is that the mech is going to be a little bit less powerful. We saw even competitive modes, or not even outside of competitive modes, the mech was a little bit overperforming relative to where we want it to be. So we've just reduced the base stats in a lot of cases where the power, it was like 1370 something, and now it's going to be 1000 instead. So just a reduction to power, reduction to some bulkiness from that, from the vitality, the toughness. And those numbers are just going to line up a lot nicer with inheriting stats from the mechanists themselves. On top of that, we've also reduced the cooldown on the mech resummon. So previously it was 100 seconds. Mech dies, you're stuck without the mech for 100 seconds. It feels really bad. The common feedback we saw is, the mechanist just doesn't feel like it does a whole lot without the mech. And I mean, the mace is cool, the signets are cool, but the mech is obviously the big primary gameplay element. So when it goes on a 100-second cooldown, it just kind of sucks. And you want to, everyone hold the elite skill to resummon the mech rather than using the Jade Buster cannon, which is the super cool thing it's supposed to do. So the cooldown is down to 50 for Beta 4. We'll be keeping a close eye on that, and we'll be reevaluating, like, does mech strength need to be adjusted even more and the cooldown need to come down even more, or so on and so forth. We'll be evaluating what the right numbers for those cooldown and mech balance is. The last big point to talk about for the mech is the skill responsiveness, and this is actually something that we saw a lot of, where you try to use a skill, you command the mech to use a skill, and it would just not use that skill. And the reason that would happen is because the mech had a couple of other skills outside of its auto attack chain that it prioritized very highly. If it was going to use Jade Siphon, it's going to use Rocket Punch, it's just going to ignore you when you tell it to do something because it has a better idea. The mech, it thinks it's a little bit smarter than you, so it's like, I'm just going to use my own skill instead. And that obviously just made the gameplay feel really clunky. So Jade
Well, it
Siphon
felt like very
actually
robotic because
not going to be a skill anymore.
AI
The mech
doing
will
the
never
work
use
for
that
you.
ability. And that's another kind of power level adjustment to the mech, give it a few less things to do. And then Rocket Punch has been pulled out of the mech's AI package, and it's instead going to be used anytime the mechanist uses Mace 3. You use Mace 3, the mech will use Rocket Punch at the same time, get that nice CC into CC. The more control over the CC skill feels really good there, and as a result of this, you're just going to have a lot more responsiveness when you use it to use one of your F1, F2, F3 command skills. The mech will pretty much always be there and always be ready. So again, that's this super high level, quick summary of all the changes to 9 Elite Specialization for Beta 4. We'll be posting the patch notes pretty much right after this stream ends, and you'll be able to see the full list of changes. And obviously you guys will get to play with all these things. We're expecting a lot more feedback around all these things based on Beta 4, so obviously go on the forums, tell us what you think, and we'll be continuing to iterate on all these things as we look ahead toward End of Dragon's launch. And so now I'll toss back to Ruby. And
I swear to God, CMC's about to drink a lot of
Cal.
water.
As always, you're a hero for going through all of that stuff. So thank you very much. We will have those live on the profession forum, on the main profession forum as soon as we are done here on the show. We do have a couple more things for you, though. One of the things that we have been working on all year, and you as players, is the Living World Replay ongoing meta achievement. Seasons of the Dragons, there's a legendary amulet that is that reward. We're getting close to where people can start getting that in their own legendary armory, so we thought we'd give a little preview today of what the effect looks like once you've got it equipped.
Oh!
Mark, my monitor is safe now.
Got the northern
All right, so
lights
that
here.
is the effect on the Prismatic Champion's Regalia. Just turn it around so you can see the whole thing. And that is what that's going to look like. But that is not the only preview we have for you. Next week, November 30th, also it brings the beta event, but it also is going to bring some new character customization options for your character creation. That's coming on Tuesday, so we thought we would show you a few screenshots of previews. So here you go.
Okay. What do you mean, like character customization? Like this will be your select screen or something? Like, wait, what?
All right, there's a little something for everybody. I hope you enjoyed that preview. I cannot wait to see what everybody does
faces
with
in
their
here.
characters next week once we have
Honestly, I
these new
didn't even
character
notice like if
creation
there were new
and
faces or hair.
customization options. So,
Shows what
beta
I
event
care about,
next
fashion.
Tuesday, starting 11:30. End of Dragons launches in February of 2022. We are getting closer and closer. It's available for pre-purchase right now. If you pre-purchase End of Dragons, you get some cool bonuses that you can use on your account now, and then some other cool bonuses that you'll be able to use on your account after launch. We are also working with DX Racer for next week's beta. We're giving away another DX Racer gaming chair. This one here, we are going to give that away along with some Guild Wars 2 gems to a lucky winner. The way you enter is by logging in to play the beta. Every day you play the beta is one entry to win this sweepstakes. We also are working with DX Racer for an End of Dragons gaming chair that you can pre-purchase now. Pre-purchase lasts until November 30th. Next Tuesday is a big day. There's a lot happening. If you are thinking about pre-purchasing this, get that in before pre-purchase ends next Tuesday. We are almost at the end of that. We also have some Black Friday sales coming up. Like I mentioned, here in America, this is Thanksgiving week, and with that comes Black Friday. So starting on the 26th, Path of Fire, half price. Guild Wars 2 gems, 20% off. You can check our website now. Just check guildwars2.com. There's an article listing out all of the retailers with links where you can pick those up depending on where in the world you are. Also, check the gem store daily. Starting on Friday, we're going to have daily sales for Black Friday for the next 4 days. Next show is December 3rd. We are going to be telling you about a whole lot of End of Dragons gameplay features. So follow our channels so you don't miss us. And we will
it's going to
see
be
you
big,
then.
December 3.
Now let's all go to the forums and we'll get those notes up and running.
All right.
See you next time.
Well, that should be live now in a bit.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I'm gonna do a highlight. I don't think I'll cover the. Wait 1 second. All right, let me get back into the game. Let's do a giveaway. It's been long overdue. Okay, so specs real quick. I don't know if I'll read the forums. We'll read the forums as we go through the thing. I don't think I'll do a video on them. Like maybe we'll just publish the Siege Turtle. To be honest, I'll make a highlight of that now and maybe upload it to YouTube. Maybe the patch notes, I could do them separately. Or I could also just do like this, the rundown, the speed through the specs, simply because the patch notes, you know, I'll just include them in the video or something. Yeah, so okay, Siege Turtle, that is its own thing. Like I do think it's really well done. Actually really game changing. I haven't seen anything like that in another MMO. I mean, there are like dual mounts in MMOs, but something like where you're actually the passenger is just as in control as the driver. Now I think it's cool for people who like maybe like casual players who don't have time, players who need a bit of a learning experience, or someone like you're trying to show around the world, the beautiful world. I think there is a lot of positives to it, but I think equally there might be some negatives. The negatives, I think, is like it actually kind of enables backseat gaming. It gives you the ability to, I could already see some maps being farmed by like, you know, groups of 4 people, and you know, just have 2 people on a turtle. You're gonna go around, you're gonna literally like go to high mob zones, like, you know, Silver Wastes, like Thunderhead Peaks, like Palawadon, and so on and so forth, right? And I think that definitely is going to cause a bit of an issue, because how do you control the people who like are just going to bot that, right? The players who aren't actually going to be actually playing, they're just going to have a bot and code them to just like run a script, and so I think that is going to cause a bit of a problem. Now the mount doesn't move to the point where it's too overpowered. I didn't think the jump was that. I thought the jump was a bit higher than what they showed. So the jump it's supposed to be higher than the Jackal and the Raptor, but nothing close to a Springer. I thought it was like originally going to be like something a bit on the verge of a Skimmer, because sorry, a bit on the verge of a Springer, sorry, because it was like jets, but it's actually not bad. The jump is not that bad. The problem is like you could time the jump to hit the ground and hit the AoE damage on the enemies. And of course, if you have all the mastery lines, like there's a mastery for health, there's a mastery for literally like enabling, like every time you hit your one, which is like your turtle smashes into the ground, that's 25% of chance to get more artillery. So you have that, and then plus the third mastery point gives you, I believe, like sort of a shell, and so every time like you're hitting enemies, you're gonna be generating even more ammunition for yourself. So if you have a good driver, because the driver, if they're pretty good and they can time things like running around in a good pattern, they can keep hitting enemies, because your cannon player will keep hitting the enemies, and your driver just rotates around making sure like they keep that momentum up, and the artillery like never stops. So you can actually consistently be firing rockets at like the enemy mobs without ever having downtime. And if you can group up in an area where there's a lot of these mobs, like this can generate a lot of XP. The fact that you can just pick up loot as well, you don't actually have to leave the mountain to pick up the loot, you can just pick it up as you go. So I think like those are, it's a very great feature, but at the same time it might cause some bots to you know, and now obviously with a script on the bot, like it's not going to be as like coordinated. Like I don't think they'll be able to hit it to that point. It depends on the level of effort someone does, but it does allow that option that they might, you know, still enable them to do more with 2 accounts than 1. So now again, positives, I think it's good for casuals. I think it's good for players getting into the game. If you have like someone that you're trying to teach the game, someone that you're trying to show the game, if you're having fun running around, you know, I can definitely see it's a fun experience. It's a good mount. But then there's also those issues that I hope they can maybe address. They did say it's not going to happen in WW immediately, and I respect that decision. I would love to see them added in WW, and as they said, as long as it doesn't destroy the experience that we have in WW right now. Because right now, if they add it as it is right now, honestly, it could actually destroy a lot of the gameplay of WW. So I respect them adding it only if it makes sense in World vs. World, and only if they can figure a way out where it doesn't break the game mode. So that I respect. Yeah, I actually did drink my medicine. Anyway, all right, so that is it for the mount. Now for the specs, I actually believe they tuned some of them okay. So let's run down to the specs. The first one, the Virtuoso, upped up a little bit of the power damage. So, you know, I would love to see how this in the beta compares now to Chronomancer spec now, and just how it compare. I mean, it felt like it was a good power spec, but it still felt like it was missing a bit of more oomph to it, you could say, a little bit oomph. I think the Virtuoso, interesting to see how it happens, how it, you know, takes place now in the beta upcoming, boosting a bit of that like shatter damage for you, getting a bit of condition, but it's not the focus of that spec. It's purely a power build. So we'll see how that happens. Now I want to see the Harbinger, because this one, it seems like they fine-tuned it a bit to be more convenient, and this spec in general is a little bit of a 50-50, because like it can give you every single boon in the game, and it deals a pretty decent output damage. So it feels like it does everyone else's job better than them. It's like, and we've seen how that happened with Scourge being a bit of a problem later in the game. So I'm hoping they kind of maybe make more tweaks on the Harbinger. I do want to see more tweaks on that. Next after that, I believe we had Virtuoso, Harbinger, and then we had the Willbender. The Willbender is not too exciting to me. It seems like they have upped a bit of its condition damage. There's more burning capabilities. Adding in AoE alacrity to your group, but I believe CMC has mentioned it's not going to be its main function, so it's not going to... So it seems like it's not going to be more of the Willbender's purpose, which I prefer better like that, because I honestly... another class that could just do alacrity just feels like a monotonous tone or something. And to me, Willbender, I don't know, it's a bit iffy. It seems like it still has some more work to do, you know. Obviously most of the earlier specs were a little bit more underwhelming, but yeah, Willbender is one of those I think they still have to figure out the balance with it. It doesn't look like it's going to do as as much as any of the other classes. That, and I think Catalyst seem to be of the lower spectrum based on what people's opinions. After Willbender, we have the Vindicator, and I think the Revenant one seemed to be okay for PvP instances, WW and PvP. I didn't get to see too much of the Vindicator's gameplay. The one thing I will like about that is that they now enable you to switch between the stances of Luxon skills and Kurzik skills better. So you can choose to be the offensive build, which is Luxon, the Kurzik is being the defensive one. And I like that. It gives you the option now to play the style that you want on the Vindicator. I didn't like they had to have this swapping back and forth, and it kind of deterred away from the gameplay, because then you have to really miss out on playing one or the other. This one gives you the option. You could still do a swap back between the offense and defense, but it gives you the option to actually just play a pure offensive class or a pure defensive class if you want it. After that, we have the Catalyst, which I can't say too much of, to be honest. The later specs after Catalyst, to me, I honestly I feel like I can only say so much on, because or so little on, because I didn't really get to play the later specs as much. So yeah, I don't know. That one we'll see. It seems like the spheres are slightly tweaked better, and so now maybe you can control your elements a bit better and things like that. I don't know too much about the Catalyst, so I can't really speak on that one. The next one would be, what is it? After the Catalyst that we got, should be the Bladesworn. And this class is even though they reduced the duration of your build up to the charge, I really feel like this is still a one-trick pony class. Instead of doing your 300,000 DPS damage in every couple 10-15 seconds, you're not gonna do it. That's actually the question. Will they reduce the damage, given that now you have a reduced duration to build up to that final hit? So will they reduce the damage? They have to have reduced the damage. I don't know. I'm not too fan of it. I'm not too much of a fan of it. Bladesworn, everyone seems to be off about, so there you go. After Bladesworn, what else do we have? We have the Spectre, I believe. The Spectre, which is the Thief seems like they're going to reward you now for actually staying in the stance that they mean for you to enter for the Thief. So I think that's okay. It's supposed to be a support class. I like that they're going to take away the quickness, because it seemed like it was going to do a lot of things. I do like that they're a little bit kind of reducing that role and making sure that the Thief is purely the Spectre is purely a support role and not in the slightest of alacrity, quickness, and doing that's two jobs in one. So I think I like what they're doing with it. Again, can't say too much about that besides those few improvements that I know of. And then what else? We have the Untamed, which I can't say too much about the Untamed. I do like the functionality of the pets now. Being callback and everything. Removing that was a mistake. I don't know why that was even a thing. I've heard Rom's opinion saying that this is actually a fine class. He said he had no problems with. Some people were disappointed, but I think a couple of the PPers seems to be okay with the class. There's some who will voice their different opinion, but at least a few of them seem to be okay with the Untamed, minus those changes which they've now done. So now you actually have control of the pet again. The fact that you can now swap in between your Unleashed is going to be interesting, because that gives kind of more of a easier access to burst, and not having a 10-second cooldown where you're just actually waiting for the next burst. Mechanist, I didn't even see any gameplay of Mechanist, because I was actually away when all of this was happening. The last 3 specs I wasn't even there for. Mechanist was interesting to see that they finally now understood, okay, because the way I understood Mechanist felt like the entire robot AI was doing everything, and you literally, it was an AFK class, and I like that now you are controlling it through your skills and things like that. So that I appreciate. Those are my quick opinions on all the classes. I don't know if I missed anything. But those are my quick opinions. I had more to say on the earlier ones than the latter ones, simply because I was here for the earlier ones. I had a week where I wasn't able to play, a week or two, and I missed a lot of those other ones during the weeks that they were on. We'll see how they are. And those are my thoughts between the Siege Turtle and those classes. And we'll see how it goes next Tuesday, how they actually fine-tune some things. And again, they're working on everything until release. So we'll see how that comes into play. So yeah, I think I'll include this section into the video. These are kind of like my concluding thoughts. Along with the Siege Turtle and when CMC explained, you know, the quick rundown of the classes. I'm not gonna go into the patch notes, or I will go into them on stream, but I'm not gonna go into them into the video, in the YouTube video. So I'm just gonna clip all of this now and edit this quickly. But before that, chat, I'm actually gonna open up a giveaway. So we'll go over the patch notes. I'm honestly just not gonna upload the patch notes. I don't feel like it's gonna be worth it for me. I'm just gonna do this was like my recap, you know, patch notes. I'll just put a link to it if you can read the description, you know. So yeah. And then we'll record a clip for YouTube as well. All right, so chat, giveaway opened for these 3 items. All right, giveaway opened for these 3 items: Glyph of Volatility, Poly Purple, and Perma Frost Die. I am going to Glyph of Volatility, Poly Purple, and all right, let's open up this giveaway. There we go. Exclamation for rigged. Enter. These 3 items are being given away. Glyph of Volatility is a useful item that gives you volatile magic, a currency in Living World Season 4. Every time you harvest items on your gathering tools, you can put them on unlimited or breakable gathering tools. And if you want to know what to do with volatile magic, I actually have a guide for that. I think it's Lures to Volatile or something, or Volatile Farm. I don't know. You can find it on my YouTube channel. Convert volatile magic into gold. Basically, you buy trophy shipping boxes from vendors in LS4 and you put it into T6s. That's what they give you. Some T5, some T6s. Useful for making legendaries. Poly Purple, just a regular 150 or 160 gold infusion. And then Permafrost, which is a 200 gold item, or I think 160 as well. There you go. Giveaway for this will be up for about